There's a reason why there's like 2 gangster SpongeBobs in the thumbnail. Welcome back to Ask Wavetro, by the way. Check out this new logo that guy named Andy made, because he was so sick of the old one that I threw together lazily. Thank you for making this one, Andy. Anyways, the gangster SpongeBobs, that's because on the last video, what is it? Someone got upset that I put a stickman in the thumbnail of the first Ask Wavetro because it seemed like I was making an animation, when in reality I was just trying to use the stickman as like a thumbnail mascot. But I kind of understood, okay, you know what, I would be upset by that too, so I decided to change it from the original thumbnail of like a stickman in a graduation cap to something else. And then someone suggested, hey, why don't you make it Gangster SpongeBob? And then I did, and then everyone loved it, and then I was about to change it back to like something instead, but instead I figured out a way to make it work, and so now it's a nice background with shitty Gangster SpongeBob in the foreground. And you know what, let's just do the bit again one more time. So now there's another Gangster SpongeBob thumbnail for this episode of Ask Wavetro, the show where people send in questions and I ramble answering them while playing Superflight. And yeah, right now we're kind of in another Wavetro dark age. The way what the fuck you might be wondering by that? It's like, what does that mean? It's because have you seen how the voicemail video is doing? It's not doing great, and a lot of subscribers, for some reason that particular video is making a bunch of people go, all right, I'm out, and it's kind of bleeding subscribers a bit. And even the frog video that usually carries the fuck out of the YouTube analytics page that I usually see when I open, yeah, that's not doing too hot either. So it's like, okay, well, looks like I better make something fun to, like, you know, at least give it a little more momentum, you know, put a little air in the wings of this channel. I mean, I'm not terribly bothered by it, you know, it's not my self-worth, but it's just like a little bit of a shame. And I was going to make a high effort video, and I said I was going to do that before making this Ask Wavetro, but as you can see, I'm making this Ask Wavetro video instead first, this quote-unquote lazy video. And reason why that happened was a couple things. I mean, one thing is that work is ramping up, like right before the holidays. It's just, I don't know what the fuck is going on with my job, but it's all of a sudden like, oh, there's all this shit we gotta cram in before the end of the year, and it's like, oh, okay. It kind of makes me a little bit more tired at the end of each day, but also, what is it? Doctors. Whenever you are looking for a doctor and you call the office asking if they take your insurance and they say yes, that might be cap, because yeah, I'm dealing with a dentist that might not have actually been in my network. That's cool. Always use the fucking insurance website. Don't Google nearby dentist and then call and ask if they take it. They're probably going to lie to you. And the big thing is that I got into my first car. I really don't want to call it an accident or a wreck because it's not that bad, but it is still kind of expensive anyway. It is a car incident. And what basically happened, in my defense, it was not entirely my fault. What happened was that I was pulling into a parking spot, and there was this puddle in the parking spot, like near the front towards the curb, and I was just like, oh, that's weird. Why is no one parking here? Let me just park there. And it turns out that puddle was hiding a huge like divot or like a dent in the road, like right in front of the curb of the parking spot. So what essentially happened was, as I was pulling into the parking spot in my car, the car slipped into the puddle, into like what was basically a hole or a ditch, and it rammed the underside of my bumper. Shit, speaking of rammed, it rammed the underside of my bumper into the curb and tore the plastic shielding like underneath the car. And I mean, doesn't seem like anything else got damaged, but fuck, dude. I'm not going to be able to be like, hey, can the parking lot pay for this, please? Because they had a poorly paved parking spot. There's no way in hell it's worth going to like fucking small claims court over shit like that. And I caused the accident all by myself, so I guess I got to take the L on this one. So that's another point of stress. That was the point where I realized, okay, you know what, let's just do Ask Wavetro to end the year, and we'll just like embrace this sort of starvation period of this fucking downturn after coming back to YouTube so soon. Ah, well, but you know, this isn't life, you know. It's like, it's not the end of the world that things are dying down right now, but hey, that makes for a cozier show, doesn't it, for those of you that actually tune into this, you know? But yeah, that's why we're just gonna end the year with this video, and as you probably have guessed, I wanted to make Ask Wavetro a monthly thing. I wanted to put all these different videos between each Ask Wavetro, but at this point, fuck it, you know. And that's probably the attitude I should have, you know. If the next 3 videos are gonna be Ask Wavetro, so be it, you know. But I doubt that. That's why I don't have a high effort video. And instead, because that high effort video I was gonna make this month was actually based on Ask Wavetro questions that I'll just answer on this show instead, because they may be quite interesting to you, especially, if you've already watched my videos like in the past, you know, when I was at like my peak, before I became washed-tro, you know, washed-tro, washed-tro, yeah, washed. Anyways, let's start. Where was my phone? Also, sorry if the audio's crackling, but I can't be asked to fix it right now. Pretend it's like a cozy fire. It's like Christmas time, you know, just pretend there's like a cozy fire in Superflight while I get these questions pulled up. Okay, let's start with an easy one. Laura asks, what the fuck, you've never ridden a bike? Why not? Great question. I mean, right off the bat, the big reason why is because growing up as a kid, I was the type of kid that was kind of scared of literally everything, you know? Fucking dogs, what else? Loud noises, bikes, you know? Yeah, I as a kid growing up in New York, I said, I don't need to learn how to fucking ride a bike or drive a car. I live in New York. I can just kind of walk everywhere. And that's what I said, because I was just kind of scared to ride it. You know, I didn't want to fall over and scrape my knee or whatever. And I did learn how to use a scooter, like I had a two-wheel Hot Wheels scooter that I loved. It's pretty inefficient, but rode the shit out of that thing. That was easy enough for me. But the bicycle, I don't know. As a kid, it scared me. And then as I got older and like I became less irrationally afraid of everything, I continued to avoid bikes, because I started realizing, oh shit, if I learn how to ride this bike, my mom is going to start sending, because what is it? My siblings, they like to go on bike rides around the town when I was like growing up, and I didn't want to go with them. I wanted to stay inside and work on fucking Blender animations like a weirdo. So a way I preserved my free time to do that is by continuously dodging learning how to ride a bike. And there were times where at one point my friends were trying to corner me into it, saying, oh, you should learn how to ride this bike and then we'll buy you a cake once you learn it. And then I sort of like bullshitted my way into like faking like, oh guys, look, I learned how to do this bike, as in like I wobbly balanced down a hill on a bike for a bit, and then they just called it there, saying, hey, you know what, that's as much as George is probably going to do, let's just buy the cake for the meme, call it a day. And then I never actually still learned how to ride the bike. And yeah, now that brings me to today, saying, why don't you learn how to ride a bike now? And the answer is, I'd rather walk, but also because what would I do with it? You know, I don't live near any mountains or bike paths, and bicycling in New York is a death wish because of all the cars. I mean, there's like, there's like I don't know if there's trails, but I guess there's like enclosed parks like Prospect Park and shit like that, but I don't want to deal with all that. I gotta get this bike, I'm gonna have to protect it from theft, I gotta get a fucking helmet, I gotta keep the bike maintained, I gotta do this and that, and it's probably a lot easier than it sounds, but really it's, me avoiding the bike is the same reason why I've just been kind of avoiding alcohol. It's like my life has been simpler without it. I think I'll just keep going while avoiding it, you know. Yeah, and I probably could learn how to ride a bike if I really put my mind to it, but I honestly don't have a good reason to learn that goddamn bike already. I mean, it's a little sad, because sometimes my mom goes, hey, I never learned how to ride a bike either. We should both learn together sometime. And I feel like at some point in like 30 years, I'll be like, God damn it, I never did that with my mom or something. But, you know, it's like, at the same time, it's a bike. It's 2 wheels. I don't really see it as that big of a deal. Like, if I lived in, like, fucking Wyoming, Colorado, Oregon or something, be like, oh, let me learn how to ride this bike and go, like, ride in, like, a fucking trail or something, and, like, oh, look how pretty scenery is or something. But, in New York City, God, no, I don't want to get hit by a car. And then, again, in San Antonio, God, no, I don't want to get hit by a car. There's surprisingly a lot of bike lanes here, by the way. It's actually quite surprising that, sometimes it's kind of a mind fuck whenever, like, you see parts of Texas where they literally have windmills and bike lanes, and it's just like, oh, I thought this was rootin' tootin' cowboy shooting traditional Texas, where Sandy Cheeks goes, grr, I hate immigrants or something, and hates change. But nope, there's so much room to build shit here that I guess kind of everything gets built. And so, I mean, if I learned how to ride a bike, I would have places to go. But like I said, I don't want to deal with fucking cars. Granted, if I was still in New York, it's kind of a slightly better idea to learn how to ride that bike now, because fucking New York is melting down right now, especially with some budget crisis because of migrants coming in from the southern borders. And I don't want to get into it. Don't write a comment about it. Do not write your comment about the migrant crisis in my comments. I don't want to deal with that right now. Right? You can have whatever views on it. Point being that, what the fuck? This looks like K folder. Hang on, I gotta save this one. Save current map. Okay, if you want to play this map, just put in that seed on your copy of Audacity. Oh god, is my audio clipping? I hope it's not clipping. Anyways, what was I saying? Damn, this is a cool map. New York is about to tax every single car that drives through Midtown and Lower Manhattan. And, like, it's not even, like, going over a bridge. It's not, like, going through the tunnels where you already get, like, a toll that you have to pay. Nope, you just straight up get tolled for being a car and you exist in Manhattan. And so, at that point, it's like, yeah, New York is really either wants you to take that damn subway, which I'm fine with. I like the subway. I like buses. I like public transport. Or you take the bike, which I'm not as thrilled about because, I don't know, the bikes scare me. You know, they still scare me to the point of, like, if I ride this thing, I might, like, break my ankle or get hit by a car, and then I have to like press charges or something, or, like, you know, it's a whole thing. I'm just, like, not really that passionate about it, you know. It's like I'm just not that interested. Like, still, like, I'm just talking in circles at this point. Like, where would I ride this bike, you know? Not exactly I haven't exactly lived in any bike-friendly places. I like using my legs to walk, or I like using a train or a bus to go somewhere. Driving a car, you know, I'm not a fan of that either, as you can tell earlier by my story of me having to fucking repair this car. That replacing a fucking plastic shield under this car better not cost more than like $500, $600. If it costs like anywhere in $1,000, I should probably just kill myself. I mean, I'm still gonna pay it, but it's like, I mean, my deductible is like $1,500, so I have to pay it for it either way. But Christ, dude. Cars are annoying. Like, yeah, they're convenient when you're in fucking Texas, right? You can, oh wow, I can go anywhere I want, and you kind of forget how sprawled everything is. But what is it? They're expensive. I don't really like it. I kind of wish there was. I mean, what is it? I'm gonna be fine taking the bus places. Like, at least I don't have to use like a rental car benefit and drive up my rates even further with my insurance. But yeah, I'll be fine with the bus. You know. I'm a sick weirdo that can make a bus as infrequent, but somehow somewhat reliable as San Antonio's work. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking in circles if I keep this going, but you get the idea. There's somewhere buried in what everything I just said is a coherent reason why I don't like riding bikes. Honestly, I just don't have really a strong push to do it. All right, next question. This one's from Jatmos. What's your experience been like in a city that's close to the southern border? Have you seen Spanish speakers or Hispanic stuff more often, or is that aspect not really present? Also, how the hell have you not ridden a bike? Well, good thing I answered part 2, but speaking of San Antonio, let's talk about it. God, this is a fucking cool city, actually, and I hope some of you still went, oh god, it's in Texas, though, which is great, because the point of me coming here is so I can have the cheap rent, but, you know, cheap rent without, like, I'm not renting out like a fancy brand new newly built building or anything. Don't worry, I'm trying my best not to contribute to gentrification. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna bring my own ways to San Antonio or whatever, you know. But that doesn't mean San Antonio is like the rest of Texas. It's not going like, oh, you better vote red and you better say Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays. That is oh yeah, speaking of which, what is it? That is the only time I've ever felt like I'm actually in Texas was recently when I was at the HEB, which is like the local grocery store here, and there was this guy that looked way too overqualified to be a grocery bagger, and I think he probably worked at a church or something. He's like, hey, how do you do? Hey, let me help you bag your groceries. Do you need help with this? Perfect. See you soon. I told him happy holidays on my way out, and he said, actually, it's Merry Christmas. And it's like, oh, okay. That's right, I'm in Texas. But other than that, San Antonio is like wildly different from the rest of Texas. One being that it's, it's a city. It's a pretty big city, although it's known as like the biggest small town in America because it's so spread out, and it's not really, it doesn't really feel very city-like, It is kind of like a little suburby, other than like the little teeny tiny downtown area and the Riverwalk and the Pearl and whatever. But what is it? Damn, is it a cool city. And I'm talking about like specifically with the history it has and what is it? The fact that it is the majority, fuck. I think it's like the highest majority Hispanic population out of the top 10 cities in America or some shit like that. I mean, it's literally the name, San Antonio, right? 104.5, Latino hits, barbacoa, y big red, Oh, don't ask me to roll my R's, by the way. I'm not fucking Spanish. I can't do that shit. But what is it? Yeah, it's there. It's everywhere. The Hispanic culture is like it is there. And for a while, I was doing. It was a really stupid idea for me because I'm not really that interested. I wasn't really that interested to begin with, but for like for the months leading up to my move to San Antonio, I was doing Spanish Duolingo, and then I thought to myself, I might not actually really need this. And I mean, good thing I stopped that because Duolingo doesn't really do shit. The only way to learn a language is if you have someone to speak Spanish with an actual use for it. That's how you remember it. But what is it? If I learned Spanish, I'd probably... Oh, I got a 2000. If I actually properly learned Spanish, I'd probably actually get something out of the city. Like, people were telling me, it's like second, third gen Mexican, Latino families where the kids don't know how to speak Spanish, really only English. And while that's true, like, I noticed a lot of young people, like, pretty much... If you like covered your eyes, like, and you hear them speak, they sound like just any other American kid. They don't sound like they're about to go, like, fucking speak Spanish or something. But there's still like a majority, like not a majority, an overwhelming amount of people who are older and only really speak Spanish, and it's just cool. Like, what is it? Where was I? Oh yeah, the historic buildings, because apparently San Antonio is like super historic with its like there's the Alamo, and you have like the fact that it had a city before the plague that was the automobile industry. So like the downtown area has some surprisingly charming buildings, and I know I didn't say that right. Some surprisingly charming buildings and fucking nice areas, and the Riverwalk. Good God, that thing's pretty. Probably the only thing that the city has going for it, other than the overpriced Pearl and like some nice things on the north side, and Wemby in fucking San Antonio Spurs. Let's go 2-1-0, right? But it's a very straightforward city. I think I'm really glad I picked that over Austin. I'm also glad that Austin took the fall of being the Silicon Valley hellhole of Texas instead of San Antonio, because Austin is like so fucked with when all those companies moved in there, and the Twitch stream. Okay, not the Twitch streamers. That was kind of a dig, but a lot of Twitch streamers also like to go there because there's no income tax in Texas, even though you don't realize that. Surprisingly, I think in Texas they have a more democratic tax policy than New York or other states, in that they don't tax you on income, but they tax the shit out of you if you're a landlord. Like, if you own land, they fucking like 1% to 2% property tax, which is very high compared to the rest of like America. Which I'm surprised. It's like, that's actually a really great way to like, I don't know, that seems very uncharacteristic for Texas. But whatever the case, they have a brand to uphold. They have to be about freedom and no guardrails and my way or the highway. And so they do that by taking away income tax, but funnily enough, keeping property tax. It's not really that cheap of a state. But compared to New York or California, fuck it, I'll take it, Anyways, yeah. Sometimes I see some very depressing shit in San Antonio. Like, every time I drive up San Pedro Avenue, so why am I saying that? San Pedro Avenue. I could say it normally. I shouldn't try to fucking pose. I'm not Mexican. What is it? Sometimes I drive up San Pedro Avenue and I look on the right, and I see that one building. I don't know if anyone, I know there's like one commenter who lives in San Antonio, but do you know that one building that you go up San Pedro Avenue? It's on your right. It's like right before the really tall building before the North Star Mall. Every day, every night I've driven there without fail, there's like what looks like 100 or 200 people in like blue blankets and a bunch of buses, and they look freezing cold or whatever, and they're on their way to board a bus to New York or something. That shit's a little sad. That's like, oh fuck, you know. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's just the thing I've seen. What else? But what is it? The food is immaculate in this town, and it's not just because of, you know, like you can throw a penny and hit 5 authentic restaurants of Mexican or Latino descent and eat amazingly, eat like a king or whatever. I mean, the fun thing about San Antonio is that it's like it's as if Mexico wanted to cosplay as America. Like it's really funny seeing like these guys who don't seem like the type that would own a Ford F-150, Ford F-250 toddler crusher Texas edition truck, but then seeing like a really short dad and his wife and his 2 kids climb up into this all tinted black Deathmobile and barrel down the fucking 210. It's so fucking funny. Or what is it? I-35, the I-10. I'm trying to list a bunch of 1604. You know. Okay, maybe not the 1604. Okay, maybe on the west side. But what is it? Yeah, it's such a interesting blend of like, what is it? It's really unlike anything else in Texas, other than like the smaller versions of those cities in like, you know, Uvalde or Brownsville, like to the south and west of it. Like on the scale of San Antonio, there is nothing like San Antonio in America. It is what is it? I mean, largely it is a working class city. If you were to move here and think, oh, cool, I could live cheap, like Wavetro too. Unfortunately, the wages kind of match the rent, so you'd probably struggle without roommates. So you really should only do that if you have like the golden ticket of a remote job. Otherwise, then again, all the cities in America are fucked. The cost of living is fucked. Where was I going with this? Yeah, it's a really, really interesting city with, see, I talked about the food. I talked about, I guess, the people. People watching on the bus is also very funny because mixed in with like these, because what is it? Riding the bus in San Antonio is like almost identical to New York City, just with a couple extra characters. You got like the meth heads who are way too chatty that look like if you had your if you had someone named Mrs. Stacy or Mrs. Krabappel from English class going, "Hi children, how are you today?" Like that type of like very grating white Anglo-Saxon Protestant personality, but with more meth, and they won't stop chatting you up and talking to you. That mixed with random construction workers that don't speak a lick of English, mixed in with random the occasional mustached man in a cowboy hat who probably has like 30 DUIs, DWIs, and can't legally drive a car. Mixed in, it's just funny. It's just honestly a really funny time riding the bus. It's not very efficient, but you know, it's like if you need to just get groceries done, or you need to like, you know, go to fucking round 1 and play Marble Carnival. Which, by the way, don't play Marble Carnival. I finally quit that stupid game. Eventually, it's like, you know what, this is dumb. But what was I saying? You should really just play the skee ball instead, or I'm getting distracted, dude. Honestly, I'm just having fun. And let me just pull up that question again so I can be more specific. Have you seen Spanish speakers or Hispanic stuff that often in another aspect? No, it's present. I think I kind of answered the question. It is everywhere. It is San Antonio. It's like I said, the best way I could describe it is what if you took a city in Mexico and made everyone half of them speak English and have everyone dress up as stereotypical Texans, you know. They love going and getting Big Red and eating barbecue and fucking driving giant trucks and wearing curved-brimmed, front-facing baseball caps. Everyone in this town does that. The official, there are barely any flat-brim snapbacks. Everyone wears a curved-brimmed dad hat, forward-facing hat, sometimes with a Spurs logo on it, other times with a random plumbing company or some other shit. Everyone does that. Hell, I've even picked up on that too. I think it's baller. I mean, it's very basic, but I don't need much in life, and San Antonio seems to match that for me. But yes, there is a ton. I haven't really been to the west side all that much. but or the South Side. So I can't say I've seen. I'm not really. I'm kind of a. I'm a transplant. I'm not from the town. I haven't really seen like all of it, And what is it? Yeah, it's like. What more is there for me to say? It's fun. It's fun. Sorry, I said all that really inefficiently. I was about to talk in circles again. But I hope that answers your question, Jamos. And feel free to anyone leave a comment if you want to know more about my time here. But yes, it is very uniquely Hispanic American. Okay, this one, what is it? This guy had trouble leaving a comment on the newsletter, news.wavetro.net or wavetro.net/news. Sign up now, leave a comment, you get a reply. But sorry about the plug. This guy had to email it to me because his email wasn't working for some reason, which sucks. But here, I'll read it out instead from the email. Question time. How do you feel about the erasure of dialects in internationalized languages like German? I'm Upper Austrian, and we basically get taught that standard Austrian German, just standard German with a slightly different vocabulary, is the correct way of talking, and any deviation is a mistake. I've been verbally assaulted several times for stubbornly trying to keep my dialect alive. I don't know, I just worry I get too bothered by this. It's technically a genocide if you go by UN definition, but I feel like it's overstating the importance of this. An unaffected third party like you could give some insight on this, I thought. Hope you have some thoughts on this that are worth putting in a video. Thanks for taking my time. I know, yeah, no problem. Hope you're having a lovely train ride in Austria. The erasure of dialects and bullying people to conform. Now, what is it? I was telling this guy, because what is it? I never think about this shit. I am the worst at learning foreign languages. All I know is English, maybe a little bit of like Spanish from middle school, and yeah, that's about it. Sometimes I even struggle with goddamn English, There are stupid American moments. So I am a completely I think I'm pretty qualified to answer this in this prospect of someone who's never thought about this, because I never ever. I mean, if you for like a stranger's perspective, not like an educated perspective. I'm not like a linguist or like a UN peace person or whatever. From the perspective of someone who has no clue or never heard of this, I am very qualified to answer. So I did some Googling, looking up like, languages going extinct, languages being like erased, stuff like that. Some similar examples that came up was, what is it? In China right now, I saw an article on it that the reason why there's two different kinds of Chinese and language selectors, traditional and, simplified, Cantonese and Mandarin. I didn't really realize this until I remember being told it once, but I was only reminded of it just now, is that currently the government in China wants to erase all the languages. Not erase, but force Mandarin as the standard language on everyone, so it's all like uniform and stuff. But in the process of doing that, it erases tons of linguistic history that regions in China has had. There's no fucking. Sorry, I dropped the F-bomb right there for no reason. There's no other country I can think of on Earth than China that has such a long continued history, other than maybe Mesopotamia or the Indus River Valley. But for those of you who took AP World History in America, you knew damn well about how OG China is when it comes to building civilizations. I hear that one meme sometimes that Chinese people flex on Westerners, saying, I can talk to my ancestors thousands of years ago, which might make some of my Chinese viewers cringe hearing that. I'm sorry, but what is it? Yes, there's tons of history in that language. And hearing about this, I already hear about the horrors of whatever shit goes on with how China tries to erase its people in the Uyghurs, I think they're called. The Muslim minority that lives in the mountains all the way in West China, about how they're basically in culture erasure camps and stuff. So yeah, not great. That's one example that we can compare this to. It isn't getting these are some nice colors actually. Hang on, sorry, let me save this one too. Want to play this one? There's the seed number. Looks like the Toy Story intro. Anyways, it's not the same as being scolded or verbally berated for speaking in a specific way in Germany, Austria / that, but it's still the same topic. It's language erasure, whatever. At least from someone who Googled this for 10 minutes. What else did I find? Oh yeah, another article I saw where English language accents going extinct. This one was funny because I saw New York on the list and I was like, oh, that's, oh no. Because I do know one thing, you will never find a New Yorker outside of New York talk like a New Yorker, because no one will take you seriously. You know what? You have. If I talk like this outside of New York, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna do one of two things. Either one, oh my God, that's a great impression of Scout from TF2. Are you from Boston or some shit like that? Or two, what the fuck are you saying? Are you some kind of? I'm walking here. Get out of here. Pizza, taxi, and they just start making fun of you for talking funny because the New York accent. It sounds funny unless you're still in New York. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, that the New York accent is going to be on the decline. Like, even I grew up in fucking New York, and I barely have the New York accent, you know? It's like, shit, I didn't realize that, you know, well, I guess it's with the dawn of technology and the internet and seeing people all speak, well, oh, fuck, that was a bullshit level. What the fuck? What the fuck? I'm saving that one so I never have to see it again. Don't ever play that seed. Don't ever play that one. Anyways, what is it? Yeah, so I've never with the New York accent, I've never really picked up on it, because growing up in internet age, you know, the predominant accent in America was the lack of one, and still is. You know, excuse me, it always is. But like, you basically, I don't know, in New York City public school, you never really find anyone talking like this or walking around like this. I'm walking here, you know. Only the older people. Oh, excuse me. What else? And yeah, so I think it's really a shame, because, like, you know, oh shit, sorry, I bumped the mic. I think it's a shame because oral history and like hearing about how back then, before written language and alphabets and communication and stuff like that. Okay, maybe alphabets, yes, and like, you know, languages, but still, back then, the way history was remembered was just one guy whose sole job was to remember an entire story, like Homer's Odyssey or some shit, word for word, detail for detail, to repeat it over and over, and just be like a walking human hard drive of this one ancient story. So stories, until it eventually gets passed on to today, where it got written down. And so you don't need people whose only job it is to remember a really long, complex story or two. So oral history is like fascinating, because it's like, it's something that's largely only stored in the brains of people and, you know, in the muscle memory of their tongues. And you do have linguists who are thankfully, you know, capturing and recording like these accents and languages, so we'll always remember them and know about them. But like, what is it? It's sad to see these languages have to die out, because what is it? It's like trying to keep around, this analogy probably won't make any sense, but it's like trying to keep around like an antique train, you know? It's like, oh my God, look at that cool train, it runs on coal, it goes choo-choo, it's steam powered, it has the spinning like thing from the Valve logo or whatever, stuff like that, I don't know what they're called. But eventually those things have to get put in a museum, you know? They have to, you gotta make way for the trains, what is it, the modern trains that were, I mean, well, you know, Amtrak is kind of shit in America, but like, you know what I'm saying. And this isn't to say that, hey, Riedler, that's any other person who wrote this, you should get out of the way of progress. No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm establishing the baseline, or at least my own conclusion, that I think the language death is inevitable. It won't happen by people bullying others or governments forcing people to speak a certain way. No, that's not it, I don't think, because what is it? People in China are probably going to secretly keep the language alive out of quiet rebellion and like behind closed doors. And Riedler, you may get like harassed and bullied a bunch for speaking the way you do, but that is who you are. You know, you shouldn't be ashamed of speaking that way, of your dialect with your words and whatnot. I don't know if that means much as someone who's just like an American on the other side of the world who like can't even park in a parking spot, right? Okay, well, that was too much of a self-roast. That parking spot was fucked. But besides that, as someone who will never ever know what it's like to be you, I just hope that you continue to be emboldened. I hope you stay empowered to, you know, be you and speak the way you do, because, you know, your language is part of, oh shit, fuck. me when I hit my head on a cupboard. I butchered that. You are, you know, your dialect of Austrian, German, whatever, is part of a long history that has survived up until this point, and now it is possibly dying out, and you're the last stand in a way. And so obviously it's probably no surprise I was going to say any of that, but still, I hope all the context I said building up to that response helps you feel better, or at least gives more context. I just found it interesting. I think it was just a really interesting topic. I'm glad that I ended up Googling it for a bit and thinking about it and talking about it. And even though, because what is it? I think the actual, you know, obviously the actual death of languages are going to be descendants, either the lack of descendants or descendants who choose not to, you know, speak the language out of convenience for their own lives or whatever else, you know. It's their own life, you know. They're not entitled. People who are born after you are not entitled to keep talking your language. And unless people in dialects are either protected by like some government official designation or go off the grid and disconnect from society like North Sentinel Island, I think languages are going to continue to die off and become more streamlined and uniform in the age of the internet, where a monoculture of its own is starting to form, you know. All of that sounded really pretentious, but you guys know what I'm trying to say, basically. Yeah, that was an interesting topic. I really liked that. Thank you, Riedler. You stay you, man. Is it Riedler? Is it Riedler? I'm not sure. You gotta let me know. Okay. This one's a giant wall of text. I'm not gonna... How do I read it? I'm gonna paraphrase it. I'm gonna paraphrase it. But this is a really, really, really good question. And here, I'll read the top part, and then I'll like paraphrase the rest. So, the first Ask Wavetro was awesome. Glad the format is back. Thank you so much, Goofy Nut Nightmare. Here's a self-reflection question for you that I've been wondering about for a while. Why did you feel obligated to make all your videos have such high-quality animation? And then, hang on a second. I have to finish refreshing my memory here so I can paraphrase for you what this guy's talking about, because it's a great question. Okay. Yes. Okay. So what Goofy Nightmare then went on to ask was, for example, take one of the channel favorite videos, We Made a Pizza. I'm so glad some of you love that video. Like, I see comments of some people saying that they could keep coming back to that. It's such a great video. And so what Goofy Nightmare brought up about that video was that it wasn't necessarily the visuals that was the big draw of the video. It was the finished product. You know, it was me bantering with Chris Combic, who's probably talks more of a New Yorker than I'll ever be, and Nathan Kinda Drake, my ride or die voice actor guy. We made this fucked up pizza, and it had like the Quaaludes guy, it had like a moldy pickle, it had all this shit on it, and Goofy Nightmare makes a very great case that people, I'm assuming, people really love that video because of, at the core, it's just a bunch of guys just like shit posting to make this fucked up pizza, and the nice visuals along the way do elevate it. It makes it like an astoundingly like timeless video. Sorry, that sounds pretentious, I know, but I did put a lot of fucking work into those visuals that when I first read, sorry, wait, I'll come back to that. But yeah, that was what Goofy Nut Nightmare was saying. Like, hey, why did you spend all this time making that video look so polished when really you could have just made something bare bones, and it could have just been about the three of you making this fucked up pizza, and none of like the fancy, you know, like brick oven background and the metal poles and like the visuals and stuff like that, you know. But what is it? The other thing he brings up was that he brings up how with Stickman 2020 and Teddy and Ben, there's something that I did with those animations where, unlike a lot of other animations, especially recent ones, where it's more of a passion of like the aesthetics of an animation, where you have the character design, you have the interactions, you have the funny moments, but not really the story. Whereas with my videos, it's writing comes first. If the idea isn't good, then it's dead, you know, then it's dead to me. And it feels like I overworked myself on the visual department there too, and there's probably some way to make the writing I've done there more meaningful without like throwing myself into the meat grinder just to use Blender and stuff. Both fantastic questions, and The second thing, the thing about Stickman 2020 and Teddy and Ben and me burning myself out in animation, I'm going to lump that into the next question because there's a bunch of questions that I would like to answer all at once with that, because it also talks about what I've been doing with my free time and the possibility of could Wavetro ever make a comeback. Because, as fun as this is, if you've gone this far, clearly you enjoy this. As fun as this is, it's not a Stickman 2020. There's no excitement. There's no hype. It's not really the same. And so stay tuned, because thanks to questions like these, I'm going to talk about if this channel could ever come back to that without the burnout, because there might be a way. I think I might have a way. But anyways, back to the question of why did I feel the need to make such high quality visuals. I'm going to start with the context of We Made a Pizza. The thing about We Made a Pizza was that it was made during the time of when Discord videos were at its height. Basically, 3 words: call me Carson. Now, I know that guy got canceled right as I finished Stickman 2020, like back in like January of 2021. But in 2019, when SMP Live was blowing up and life was a little bit more simple before COVID came in and everything, the big thing that everyone was doing was Discord videos. You gather everyone in a Discord call, which is basically like a voice group call, and you do something together over the internet. And there were so many of them. There were so many of these videos. They were everywhere. You could throw a penny and you'd hit like 5. And yeah, it was like, at the time when I wanted to make a video like that, my excuse for making such a common video format was to put in these crazy different visuals without me realizing that, hey, you know what, maybe the concept alone of like making this pizza in 3D space was already pretty novel in itself. But that's why We Made a Pizza was done like that, so over the top and so crazy and like polished, was because it had to stand out. And what was interesting about this comment was that when I first read it, I shit you not, this comment basically made me hit up Chris and Nathan and go, listen, no one does the Discord videos anymore. We don't have to go crazy with the polish. We can do this again. And now, before you get excited, this ends in disappointment, but let me continue. What is it? One of my ideas for a polish video before the end of the year was going to be another We Made a Pizza video. We were going to do it again. We weren't going to go overblown on the visuals. We were going to do it by the book of what Goofy Nut Nightmare's amazing idea suggested. Just do the same banter and don't burn yourself out doing it, Just the basics. It was going to be We Made a Car. I don't know if Nathan or Chris, if you're listening to this, but it was going to be a car, and I was going to figure out how to like put it in like Beam NG or like Trackmania or something. We're going to drive it. It was going to be hilarious. But We Made a Car was going to be the comeback sequel, and probably, I don't know how often we would have made sequels after that, but essentially what happened was that I thought about it some more and realized, well, I'm really trying to not burn out here, and unfortunately there is still a considerable amount of effort in like taking the recording, editing down the funny bits while juggling this day job and all this other stuff. And I just told you about the car thing, stuff like that really makes you like winded when you get older, unfortunately. It's still possible to do stuff, but you can't do it as much. And so basically I was either forced with, do I dare risk my job and sleep quality and whatever to like pull together this video and make it happen, and also, force myself to 3D model when I haven't really been doing it in a while, because opening Blender sometimes makes me want to throw up, which I will get into later. It's also part of an answer to your question, Goofy Nut Nightmare. But why do I keep saying your name? But what essentially happened was that I realized, no, I'm not going to have fun making this. I'm just going to feel tired and burned out again. And I'm trying to get out of this fucking cycle that everyone who's watched this channel for a long time has seen me do over and over. It's like watching a guy hit his head over and over on the wall and say, dude, why does my head hurt? I was about to do that again. And so I stopped myself. And it was a good thing I stopped myself, because Chris was also about to cancel too. It is impossible to schedule anything with him. I'm so sorry. I hope you're doing well in life, Chris, but good God, your work schedule is a mess. And yeah, it did not pan out, but it could. It very well could if I really focused my energy into it and really wanted it to happen. But there is something else I would like to do instead, which I will also get into later. But yeah, to answer your question, at the time was that We Made a Pizza had to be that shiny and nice to stand out from the crowd, even though, it's like all the animation and stuff naturally would lead to like my later repeated burnout, you know. But well, not repeated burnout. I would burn out and then like be like, oh, I got to find something else to do, and then eventually that gave a stickman 2020. So maybe it's a good thing that I burned out on We Made a Pizza. But whatever the case, yeah. Nowadays, Discord videos like that are a little harder to come by, and the door is open for anyone to do the same thing. Especially if anyone who isn't like sick of Blender like I am, the door is open for you to gather your friends and make something like that. If you can, you know, make the thumbnail look nice, make the title catch attention, and make the editing good, that is a perfect video idea for you to take and run with. Go nuts, you know. But I don't really want to do it. There's something else I want to do though. But what is it? Let me see. Let me see if I can tie the rest of the answer of your question to this next person. What is it? Actually, no. I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna use this part. I'm just gonna keep talking basically, and not read the next question yet. But basically, the reason why I think this is a very recent like thing I've thought about. It's super recent, like as of 2 days ago recent. So it's a good thing I delayed recording this video. I think the reason why I keep trying to like do all these crazy high-end animation visuals for all the projects I did, even though the writing I do is enough alone. Like alone could like draw in like a big audience and people would be happy with. But the reason why I think I chose not to do that and kept trying to make Blender work anyway was because I think I kind of got sucked into the cult of Blender. Now I know some of you Blender users are about to what is it? You're either about to relate very hard or you're about to tell me I'm full of shit. It's okay, whichever one you want to say. Comment down below. This is my experience with Blender only. But let me tell you something about Blender, right? It is a free program. It can do so much. And because it can do so much, in a way, you sometimes end up feeling indebted to it and thinking entirely of within it. And you can do anything in that program if you put your mind to it. But oftentimes you don't think about what happens to your own well-being once you start something with it. So let me explain that further. Let's call it the Blender effect. Please don't make that viral. That's just something for me to like anchor onto as I talk about this. Obviously, this is only a fault of my own. You know, I should learn how to like balance a project and its tasks and have patience to finish it while also having the rest of my life be healthy, obviously, right? At the same time, for anyone who wants to live that crazy, isolating, high-stress lifestyle of just like locking yourself in a room and using Blender 16 hours a day to make something beautiful or like an absolute work of savantism, go right ahead, you know. It's all you. But I feel like learning Blender when you're a kid, or at least a teenager, and you're told about how amazing it is and how much you can do with it and how like freeing it is, and you want to become like this amazing, well, not become amazing, but like you want to be super passionate about it and create entire worlds in it. You oftentimes, anytime you want to do something creative, you oftentimes think of in terms of Blender only. So I think that's what happened to me over the years, and something I really, really, really need to get away from. I need to get the fuck away from Blender, basically. I love Blender. I love what it stands for. I love how far it's come. And I love how much it can do for something that's both free and will stay free because it's open source. But I feel like over the years, like I said, I'm admitting fault here. This is my fault. I feel like I let myself get Blender affected, where I thought anything I do or make has to be with this wonderful software because it's free. How can I not use it? How can I not make these amazing 3D animated worlds that require so much effort, so much learning, so much fucking tutorial diving with modeling, rigging, animating, texturing, rendering, etc.ing, you know. It's like you kind of, for some people, you know, it's a good thing to get sucked into their work. But for me, I think over and over, time and time again, my physical body has rejected me trying to go all in on thinking in terms of Blender projects and Blender projects alone. And sometimes I'm successful at pushing down that feeling, ignoring my health, and getting something like Stickman 2020 done. But other times I get a single episode of something done like K-Folder or Teddy and Ben, And then, right then, once I finish like an iteration of that, and the novelty of the idea has worn off, then my body kicks in and goes, if you make a second episode of this, I will fucking skin you alive, George. Go do something else. And then I trick myself into doing something else by doing a completely different, but still Blender project. 100% of everything I've ever burned out on, YouTube-wise, is Blender. It's always been Blender. And it's nothing to do with the program itself. You know, it's not you, babe, it's me. I need to get the fuck away from Blender. That's the thing I've realized, because I'm overthinking the shit out of everything I do creatively. And that ties nicely into the next question of, well, I'm about to get into it, of, let me just read it. The FBI asks, just curious, what did you do in your free time away from YouTube? And lumped in, because this person asked the same thing, Aspect asks, in your time outside of YouTube, did you pick up any new hobbies or interests? If so, which? And yes, what I do outside of YouTube, what I do outside of everything that isn't working on Teddy and Ben, or taking that year off in 2021 to finish college reluctantly and then find a job, and then this year where I had to survive the job hunting process again. Probably the worst thing a human could ever experience, job hunting. It's horrible. It's, if you survive it, congrats. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how you do it. And for anyone still looking, I don't blame you. Don't blame yourself. It's fucking miserable out there. But what is it? Yeah. After I found this current job I have that has been such, despite it, you know, sometimes being stressful and like draining, outside of this job, I have like so much ability and way more energy and free time than most other people could ever have. And what do I use it? What do I think about all the time? What is my hobby? The answer is how to make something cool like Stickman 2020 again. I swear to God, you know, I swear that's all I think about. And I'm not stupid. I wouldn't be the type to go, oh, let me just do animation again. Can't be that bad. I've already tried that, retrying animation. Trust me, animation is the problem. Blender is the problem, right? I like writing. I like making these scenarios on screen for you to laugh at. I like you getting hooked onto the characters. I don't like making characters in 3D. I don't like rigging them, and I don't like rendering them, and I don't like doing all this extra unnecessary shit when there are simpler ways I can do it. I don't even have to make it video. This is what I was going to make a standalone topic video on this month. I was going to just talk about what I've been doing all year while I was gone. And that was basically trying to find the Stickman 2020 substitute. What is something that is equally exciting? What is something that is equally like thrilling as that series that isn't animation on YouTube or something? And good God, that isn't also going to be my career. I'm so glad I'm not trying to pursue this shit for a career anymore with my creative stuff. And so I got to thinking, and even though I didn't realize it as much as I did now, what I was thinking this year was I got to like start looking for workflows outside of Blender, because anytime I try to open Blender nowadays and try to model something with vertices, I've been using the program for what, 9 years now. All I've learned is that I'm fucking sick of it. I do not like sculpt mode. I do not like vertex pushing. I do not like these goddamn nodes. I don't like looking for add-ons to make life easier. I just fucking hate all of it. I'm not going to go to an AI generator and start using prompts and stuff like that. I haven't sunk to that level. Hopefully I never do. But Jesus Christ, I am sick of Blender. And that's another thing about the Blender effect, which, by the way, don't ever make that viral. That's just what I'm using to discuss my like over enamorment with Blender. Is that I got so used to like learning the vanilla Blender way of doing things, is that whenever I make a project, I tell myself, this is how it's done, this is how you're supposed to do it, any other way is wrong, you know, even if I could have found an add-on or a different program to do it, you know. But yeah, thankfully I at least had the right idea to start moving away from Blender. And so what I've done this year is I found an incredibly different new modeling software called Plasticity. And it's really just a CAD program. But what I really love about it is that it's 3D modeling in a very different way, because it's not like any other standard CAD program. CAD meaning computer-aided design. This is what people use to like make machined parts and hard surface models and stuff. And I'm so glad I discovered hard surface modeling, because I'm so fucking done with like making things like the Stickman or other soft body characters where I have to worry about topology or rigging or bones, and fuck all that shit. What if I just made everything separate, clunky, like mechanical objects, and things just moved like in entire pieces instead of as fleshy things, you know? That only makes sense if you know 3D, but if you don't know 3D, don't mind all that. Basically, plasticity is a very different way of thinking about 3D models, and God, learning this thing was amazing. The downside to plasticity is that it's $150. That is a lot of money. You get a year of updates, and you get to keep the thing forever. Like, once that year runs out, you know, you will never be pestered to do a subscription or connect to the internet. It's yours to keep forever, which is great. I love plasticity. Goddamn price tag, though. Because making CAD programs is expensive, but wow, learning this thing compared to Blender was phenomenal. Like, if there's any way I'd recommend you getting the 3D and you have $150 lying around, plasticity is it. And that's especially because of this one YouTube channel. You see this puppet on screen? Don't laugh at him. Do not laugh at this puppet, because this motherfucking genius made hundreds of 60-second tutorials about all the things you can make in plasticity. It's so intuitive, it is so easy to pick up, and even the puzzles, like the modeling exercises, are fun. I know that sounds fucking crazy, like what the fuck, how can you make learning 3D fun if you hate learning 3D? Not plasticity, because instead of pushing around dots and lines like a fucking idiot, or like drawing with a pen tablet, God, I hate drawing, I'm sorry Andy, drawing clay on a pen tablet and throwing multi-resolution modifiers at it, it's sort of like Illustrator, it's like vector art, or Inkscape. You take shapes, you extrude them, you move them around, you can delete booleans, you can add them, you can just it just works. It's like, what if you thought of 3D shapes, like spheres and blocks and lines and shapes, and then you just use them to like add and subtract each other. It's just logically so much easier to work with. And yeah, you can't make everything with it, but anytime I need to make something 3D, I don't go to Blender anymore, I go to plasticity. And because I've never been one to learn how to properly model things, like anytime I hear someone say, you shouldn't use Blender subdivision surface to make your models look good, fuck you, I don't care, I just need a car model, I don't need to be fucking Picasso. Well, not Picasso, I don't need to be fucking Da Vinci. You know, it's just, I just adapt my art style to the constraints of plasticity, and, you know, I just have fun with it. It's fun. Plasticity is so much goddamn fun. And it is so sad how Blender doesn't have this functionality. It does have part of it, like you can do a little bit of it. It's called NURBS. That's what and it's because, you know, you model with curves instead of vertices, and you can now have granular resolution, which is great for game assets. Sorry about the tangent, but it's kind of outdated. What is it? The only example I can think of is, like, you know how in Donkey Kong Country where you have all the characters like rendered as 2D sprites? Those original models are made with NURBS. So instead of pushing around dots like an idiot, you can actually just model curves, and the computer will make a perfectly smooth object. And so all this is to say, I've picked up plasticity and I'm in love with it. It has been like my computer program of the year. Is it free? No. Is it open source? Technically. But it's like, I mean, what is it? The source code is open, so you can like mod it, but you can't like you can't compile it. It has like some special like library that also costs the developer tons of money, which is why it's $150. But whatever the case, it is fantastic, and it is also not Adobe. Adobe can go fuck itself. Jesus Christ, no subscriptions, none of that shit. You buy the program, you keep it. Hats off to plasticity. And so that solves one part of the equation. Okay, we got away from Blender, cool. But now that we make 3D models, we still got to texture them, we still got to make them look nice, we still got to do something with them, you know? What can you do with them? So, what is it? I've tried to look outside of videos. Here's the thing, you cannot really escape YouTube. As you saw by me leaving and returning, leaving and returning, leaving and returning, like I'm fucking SpongeBob in the Flying Dutchman's ship, YouTube is the best social media there is. It is the most sane one. It is the only good one, in my opinion. Sorry, I hit the mic again. But, what is it? That's not to say that you should only think in terms of standalone videos as videos. You should think of YouTube as posts. Whereas there's something you want to share with the world, and you do it in the form of a video, with editing, with full context, with detail, and with an engaged audience. None of that fucking 280 character drama, none of that stupid fucking Mark Zuckerberg, pink paste, soulless, hard to understand algorithm. Maybe it is easy to understand the Instagram algorithm. I think the YouTube one is easier though. Whatever the case. Yeah, it's. I started thinking, okay, what are some ways to make something interesting, like Sickman 2020, that isn't animated videos? And so earlier this year, when I was visiting the headquarters of my older job, before I changed jobs to this new one, my older job, I was visiting. I happened to be in town. I was visiting my boss, and my boss, he like drives me back to my Airbnb where my family is, and on the way back, he was telling me, "Hey George, do you read?" And I told him no, because I don't read. I know this will horrify a lot of you bookworms and stuff, but I am a mushy brain pasted zoomer. My birth year may begin with a 1 and end with a 9 and 9, but God, the only things I may read is the occasional comic book or something. Actually, that's a perfect segue, because what is it? He was telling me, George, if you want to become a better writer, you should really read more often. I was like, yeah, I really should. Saying that, knowing that I was still not going to read. And my boss could tell that. So he drove me to this comic book store, because one of the wonderful things about reading, I mean, the reason why books are so important is because, like, it is literally like writing, like, ideas in its most distilled form, text on a page, and those ideas may not be executed in the form of a nice movie or fancy animation, but they're good ideas nonetheless, whatever. But what still counts as reading and enrichment to my boss was comic books. And I was like, oh, that's something I can get behind. I like pictures, And so we walk around the store. I was like, yeah, I remember reading that when I was in elementary school. And I remember reading this when I was in middle school. No, not really saying anything I've read in high school or college or now, because, like I said, I don't read. But, what is it? We were about to he was showing me all the books he liked, and then I was going, oh wow, cool, and then it'd just be awkward silence before he moves on. And then at some point he turns around and just grabs one of the books he likes, and he just buys it for me. He said, George, here you go, you should read this. And I was like, oh, okay. Because if you really want me to read a book, you gotta put me on the spot with, like, buying it as a gift. Like, one of my friends unintentionally did that. Like, if you want me to read a book, you gotta gift it to me, because then it's like in my hands, it's paper, I'm like, ah shit, I gotta read this so I don't feel bad. And so that's what happened here. And so I tried reading this book. It was called Saga. It was like volume 1. And it felt very, what is it? I read the first couple pages and I don't like it. It's not my thing. Gave it to someone else. My boss isn't going to see this. My old boss isn't going to see this video, thankfully. But I do not like Saga. It's not my thing. But that made me think. It was like, oh shit. Well, certainly there's something I can go back and read. And I remember, for those of you who grew up in America, I don't know if you still have these, if you're still in school, but for those of you who are, like, currently between the ages of, like, 18 to 26 or 20 or 30, do you remember back in elementary school where the Scholastic book fair would happen, or like, or the book publishers of like children's books would give you these catalogs, and there's all this cool stuff you could buy if you had, like, the cash in an envelope to give to the teacher and stuff. And it was mostly books, but there's also some cool toys in there so that you'd be engaged to actually flip through the thing. But what is it? You would still, the comic books, especially stuff like, I'm gonna consider it a comic book, stuff like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or what else other than Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Captain Underpants or stuff like that. There was a lot of pictures, but it was still a book that you would read, and I remember reading some of those, but there was one I kept putting off that looked really interesting, and I never got around to reading, and that was Bone. And I told myself, okay, listen, I'm a big boy now, I'm an adult, I got all this money, I should read Bone. And so I went on Amazon and I bought the stupid expensive full hardcover set, like the really nice one, knowing to myself, you know what, I think I'm going to like this. I think I'm really going to like this, I might as well read this book so I can, make my old boss proud. And so I read the whole thing, and yeah, it's a fucking amazing book. Jesus Christ. Holy shit, Bone is good. And so, what is it? If you're looking for if you type Bone comic on Google, you'll probably find it. I can't remember the name of the artist. But, yeah, that's when I thought to myself, hey, I could probably do this. And in fact, I did this once, back on my old username, robot_. Despite the giant pile of burnout projects I've had that were all Blender, there was one that technically was also finished that I never talk about because I keep forgetting about it, and that was this comic I ran on Tapastic, or which is now called Tapas or Tapas. I don't know how the fuck you call it, but that's how some people actually found me. Shout out Nick. But what is it? Yeah, I've worked with comics before, and it seems like a natural fit. You know, I like writing. I want to write the stories, and I want to make characters and all that stuff. And it's like, oh shit, I should go back to comics. And so that was the plan. Another pillar knocked down. Okay, so we've solved the Blender issue. We've solved the animation issue. We now got Plasticity. We're going to do a comic instead. And I can then have voice actors read out the comic and put it on the channel, and then boom, solve the marketing side of it. That's how the comic gets seen. And so now the only thing remained is, okay, how do you put them together? And so what I've been experimenting with over the summer was, because what is it? I remember when I made the thumbnail for Teddy and Ben, instead of doing like the very finicky and very hard to use node setup for the colorful thumbnails of Stickman 2020. I remember someone emailed me asking how it worked, and I felt like a jackass explaining it to them, because even I don't really know how it worked. I just kind of threw nodes together. Instead, I used Inkscape, which is basically Illustrator, but free open source or whatever. And Portal. Let me get that. And what essentially I realized after I made the thumbnail for Teddy and Ben, which I made intentionally look like the box art for the Nintendo 3DS, was that hey, let me just do that. And so I decided to go back and do vector art. And what I would do is I would model something in Plasticity. I would then import it into Blender. I would then use the Blender grease pencil system to automatically trace outlines in a vector line format. And then I take those lines, I bring them over to Inkscape, and then I just do the rest there. Thankfully with vector, it's not really drawing. I mean, if you can draw, you would go a lot further with vector. But you can also use vector without knowing how to draw. So it was a pretty easy matter of just color this in, make the lines look like that, dick around with gradients, and there were some pretty nice artworks actually made. Here, I'll put them on screen right now. But yeah, I really like doing this. And the only issue was after I did a couple of these practice pieces, once it started time for me to go, okay, let's make something like big and ambitious. And obviously, you're probably already like cringing in your chair thinking, oh God, ambitious. Here we go again. He's going to burn out again. I stopped myself this time because I was about to start modeling some characters and all right, let's make this story happen. I'm going to plan some stuff. I'm going to finally continue the ideas I had from Cave Folder, right? And so I make my first character. And then I bring it into Blender, and then for some reason the grease pencil outlines, they don't trace properly. I don't know why. For some reason everything else has been fine up until this point, but when I made this new model, and I even went through the trouble of doing some rigging on it so I can pose it better and all this other stuff. I turn on grease pencil stuff that I always did on my other vector art, and for some reason all the lines are broken and incomplete and requires way too much work to patch in and fix. And that's where things kind of fell apart. Because now it's oh shit, I built this really fragile workflow that still relies on Blender, which I'm so sick of troubleshooting and trying to make work, that in that moment I kind of realized, this is now in jeopardy. And yeah, this was the Wavetro secret project. I remember mentioning this in my comeback video on YouTube, but this was a secret project. It was going to be comics. And it started to fall apart very quickly recently. And so it was back to the drawing board for me. And so to echo back on Goofy Nut Nightmare and Aspect and the FBI, the people who asked the question, that's all what I kind of do in my free time. It's just I'm still researching a way to make my writing interesting, right? Because I want to work. I like making these simple characters, like rendering that on screen and stuff. I don't like drawing. I don't like animation. I'm still trying to find that perfect balance of having a visual art form that has some sort of soul to it, without burning myself out. I'm just trying not to take any chances whatsoever to burn out. But here's the thing. I have a new secret project. And this one might work. It might work this time. And I know I hear collective face palms from the entire audience saying, oh, here we go again. This man's in a perpetual cycle. Listen, the only cycle I'm in is chasing the dream of making something as cool as Stickman 2020 again, but without the burnout. But I think I might be on to something this time. But in classic Wavetro fashion, the only reason why I told you about the comic thing was because I decided to scrap it for this new idea. And, what is it? The only reason, what is it? I forgot what I was going to say. But basically, I'm basically going to keep this a secret until it comes to fruition, because anytime I, like, try to tell you guys about what I'm up to, it is just a thing that I do. The moment I say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, whether unintentionally or whether I intentionally manage to make sure I don't do that, I end up pressuring myself going, okay, even though I said it in public, I never really said it as a promise. I didn't explicitly say I didn't promise this, so therefore I have to make this thing or I'm a failure. So that's why I don't want to tell you too much about the secret project, because if I want to tell you exactly what I'm thinking of doing, it's going to pressure me into rushing it out, and then it's going to be burnout. So can't tell you too much, but I did decide that I will tell you one sentence about it. You will probably piece together, oh, holy shit, this sounds awesome, I think I know where this is going. Or, oh god, what the fuck is this guy doing? Oh god, please no. But I will tell you one sentence about this new secret project, and then move on to the next question. As soon as I check what the next question is, hang on, what is the next question? Okay, yeah. Next question is the last one. Okay. Here's all you're going to know about what 2024 Wavetro may look like, and how it could recapture its comeback, or whatever. I bought a 3D printer. And that's all you're going to get. Next question. So this one comes from RGB Cube. Oh, fuck. Why does my phone do this? Sorry, that the fingerprint reader fucked up. Here we go. Okay. This is the last question of the night, and it is the main question featured in the thumbnail, because, oh my god, this is a really stupefying question. Because one thing you may notice, a common thread with me trying to pursue this pursuit to make something as cool and exciting and memorable and impactful as Stickman 2020 again. The thing that drives me most in life is that I want to cheat death. You know, when I die, I want something that I've made to just keep going and going and being remembered forever until it is uttered for the last time in someone's brain or out of someone's mouth. And so, knowing that, RGB Cube here has asked me, since I said that I want to create something that has impact on society and leaving something behind instead of just consuming and being a nobody, this brings the question, are you planning to have kids to dedicate your life to? Oh shit, dude, that is probably the best question anyone has ever asked me on this show. Because it's like, from what I've seen, I don't think I've ever seen, like, what is it? I mean, naturally, it's very reasonable to see why. I don't think I've ever seen a generation less willing to have kids than mine, Gen Z. Because, Jesus fuck, why would we? We have no money, you know? I mean, money's all run out. It's being hogged, or it's being overinflated, or whatever, but, yeah. Having kids is pretty much the surefire way for me to be remembered after death, or longer than I could ever want to, you know? And so, oh fuck, you know, it is so loaded. Because here's the thing about having kids. The thing that's so terrifying is that, yes, I do think about being a dad. Well, could I do it? Sure, I absolutely could. I would love to, you know? But, Jesus Christ, there are so many minefields to raising a kid. Maybe not minefields, but like so many factors into it. Because let's face it, there is one thing every single person has in common that's watching this video right now. And that is everyone was a kid. And whatever happened in those first formative years of your life, mixed in with your genetic composition, is basically who you are as a person for the rest of your life. Or most of it, anyway. And that is a scary thought. If I had a kid, I would have to, like, put aside everything. I would have to make this kid, like, him or her or whatever, this kid would be my entire world. Until they become like a teenager and want nothing to do with me. But, you know, holy shit, that is, like, so much to consider. Because, like, let's say you're like, okay, I have the money to do it. Okay, I'm willing to, like, put aside my own goals in life and my own selfish needs to focus on bringing this kid into my world. And raising him or her into someone, you know, it's like, it's, geez, because the next thing you have to think about is how to raise them, you know, parenting. Because let's face it, not everyone is a good parent. Not everyone should be a parent. Some people have kids just, you know, as a way to boost their own ego and they just want a miniature version of themselves, and they project their entire personality and their wants and needs onto the kid growing up, and that results in, well, a fucked up childhood, which some of you may have. You know, it's like insane how much of your worldview is impacted by your upbringing. Like, raising a kid is such a delicate, crazy process. I mean, well, but not everyone does it delicately. Some people just park their Gen Alpha kid in an Applebee's in front of an iPad and call it a day, so they can worry about their own selfish needs rather than focusing on engaging with the kid, encouraging its imagination, building its confidence. You know, why did I say it's? There, him, her, fuck, I don't know. It is such a terrifying undertaking, because then the next thing, like I said, well, not the next thing, the thing is that, do you trust your kid to take risks? How much of that risk are they allowed to take? Are you okay with, instead of having your kid take risks, do you want to gamble on making your kid sheltered and like be really strict and make them not confident to do anything, or like uber confident to just leave you behind and never want to speak to you? You know, are you aware of every single move that you do, or how you perceive, or how you visually present yourself to your kid, in tone, in actions, in choices? How all of that will have a tenfold impact on that kid for the rest of their life. Jesus Christ, it's such a staggering thought. Because this is also something I noticed, like, what is it? Long after you grow up, there's like two kinds of people. People like me who kind of stayed within the bounds of childhood, kind of really liked being a kid, you know? And then the other group of people who are essentially way cooler, but don't like being a kid and are in a rush to grow up and want nothing to do with childhood, because you don't want to be talked down to. You want to be free and yourself and, you know, empowered and stuff, which is fine. Both of these are fine options. Basically, one kid, if you were like me in the first group of kids, you know, you wore not literally, but you wore the propeller beanie. You liked the tricycle. You know, lollipops and Mario and you know, kid things and Nintendo. And then the second group of kids, you have kids who probably discovered smoking or drinking really early. Not smoking or drinking, but snuck out and watched violent movies. You know, went to places and not allowed to go. You know, essentially being rebellious. And seeing those two groups of upbringing, like those two groups of kids, clash in reality when they're all grown up is really interesting, because you see it manifest in like a YouTube comments argument where you have one group of people who are wondering, why don't kids want to have a childhood? Being a kid is awesome, man. Why are you 11 and like posting reels about the Rizzler on Instagram? Go do your homework or something like that. And then you have the other half of people going like, being a kid is fucking lame. Just leave them alone. Let them learn. Not like literally like to the point of negligence, obviously, but like let the kid, you know, do cool stuff. Let the kid be cool, like how I grew up. And yeah, I mean, when you're a kid that likes being a kid and following the rules, you kind of learn that you kind of have to respect the kids that take risks. You know, you can't be like, that's against the rules I'm telling. That is the lamest shit you could do. It's totally fine to be a kid that liked Mario and like safe stuff and being afraid of the Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit movie and getting nightmares from it when you're 6. It's totally fine to do that. But you gotta respect the kids that want to, you know, do the crazy daredevil shit. Because, you know, it's cool as shit. I didn't want to do that as a kid, but props to anyone who wanted to, you know. You can't be like, oh, kids should like never say the F word and need to be protected and need to be covered in bubble wrap and can't watch SpongeBob or something, you know. I'm really glad I got to watch SpongeBob, by the way. Jesus Christ, I'd be so upset if I missed out on that. But and if you did miss out on that, it's never too late to watch the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, geez. There is so much that could happen when you have a kid. God forbid you do all that, you get everything right, and all of a sudden a freak accident, your kid gets hit by a car and their life is ended, or someone horrible gets a hold of your kid and traumatizes them, or your kid develops like a lifelong disease or something else, or good God, it's like terrifying. It is such a terrifying thought. And this probably this now comes to the answer to the question of would you actually do it? Would you actually ever consider taking the plunge, George, Wavetro, whatever, of like putting aside your entire life and focusing instead on just building this entire person and making them their entire world, and somehow finding that impossible balance of keeping this kid safe while also making them confident to take on the world, you know, and also feel loved. And well, as much as I like to think about that and like how terrifying it must be, and how, you know, I really like, you know, spending all my free time thinking about how to chase the success of Stickman 2020 instead of what baby formula to buy or something, you know, or what to feed a kid, or how to find them a good school, or some shit. Probably might not have kids, because the last piece of the puzzle is you have to, you know, be dating someone who's willing to also do it. And I currently have a girlfriend, and she never, ever, 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 ever in her life wants to have kids. And I do not want to dump someone just because they don't want to have kids. And, you know, it's like, if I choose to be more serious with my girlfriend, then game over, I guess. I won't be having kids, you know. I don't want to force it. Sometimes I think about like horribly demented ideas. Oh, if I donate to a sperm bank and tick the box that says have the kid meet me, then I've done my duty of passing on my familial genes. Be proud of me, father. Son. No. Probably would not do that. Actually, maybe I would. I don't know. But having kids with someone who doesn't want any, I do not want to force someone out of a relationship or into parenting that is not willing, because like I said, there are way too many parents that should not be parents. So the only people who should be parents are those who understand the delicacy of raising a kid and you know, doing it right. Because last thing we need are more people living pained lives because of a lack of a mother or father or parental figure that let them see the world in a healthy way, you know. Because I imagine there's probably a lot. There's probably a couple of viewers watching this right now who are probably relating a little bit, you know. It's a tough subject. I guess I can finish off this topic with what is it? Just a funny little trend I've noticed. I mean, everyone kind of notices it, but as the country gets more developed, the birth rates start to go down. And that's because there's a lot of people who realize, I mean, one, maybe not how impactful and delicate and hard it is to raise a kid, but they kind of realize, oh, wait, if I just live a life dedicated to me, I'll be way happier in the long run. Which is probably true. That's what a lot of people choose to do, especially if you don't have the money for raising a kid, or you just don't want to you'd rather like pursue rock climbing more often on your weekends instead of like teaching your kid ABCs or something or whatever, you know. So that's why, like, in places like India and less developed countries, there isn't enough like wealth to go around to really like build that culture of individualism. I mean, maybe the internet is going to shake the fuck up out of everything, because there's a lot of shit you can do on the internet for free. But otherwise, yeah, people who never really knew or can afford the choice of living a life in pursuit of themselves really chooses to not have kids. That makes no sense. Basically, people have kids because they need someone to worry about paying the bills of the household, the multi-generational household, and like when they get old and tired, the kids have to look after them. Meanwhile, in more developed countries, if you get old and you don't have kids, oh, it's okay, you can just go rot in a retirement home or kill yourself or something, which is dark, but hey, you didn't have kids, what are you going to do, But yeah, I always found it interesting that I think as we go into the future, there's going to be a lot more countries, especially with the internet, which I really hope stays the way it is. I really don't want people to start I don't want governments to start cutting off the internet from each other country-wise like China does, because Jesus Christ. But a lot of people are going to realize the potentials of what your life could be with all the information out there on the internet and technology reaching all the corners of the world, and birth rates are going to go down. People are going to have way less kids. Thankfully, the people who choose to have kids are hopefully the ones that are ready to do it right and not complete narcissists. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. But overall, I think about having kids a lot, and I could probably do it. You know, I'm way too paranoid and concerned about getting it right, which would probably really qualify me as a dad. But I'm not going to end like a relationship just because I'm dating someone who doesn't want to have kids. You know, that's stupid. And finding someone in 2023, that's already hard enough. You know, some people obviously it comes easier, but others, nope. And so I want to end off by saying this, especially if you're someone who thinks that you're incomplete because you don't have a significant other, or you don't have access to sex, and oh, where your bitches at, because everyone in high school says something like that. Listen, you're not going to have a good relationship with someone anyway if you don't have a complete sense of who you are to begin with. If you want a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, the first step to doing that is to not want it. You should never want it, because what you should have instead is just focus on finding who you are, and then finding people around you who you like, and then one day you might bump into the special person within those groups of friends. It's funny because like 10 years ago, there was like, bro, you're in the friend zone. It's so over for you, bro. You're so done. But really, it's like you start from friends and then ramp up to, you know, a relationship, and that's the only way to have a lasting relationship. Otherwise, you're just looking for sex, you know, and sex is honestly not that special. It really isn't, you know. It's like if you really should never be like ashamed or worried that you're missing out on like sex or something. Sex is honestly like a lot of fucking. It's not for religious reasons, but I think sex is a root of a lot of evils. You know, I really fucking hate. Now that's just my tangent. Me saying I really fucking hate coomers. I mean, if you're hormonal, like you hopefully you outgrow it, but otherwise, Jesus, don't be a fucking gooner when you're 26. Go get a job. Goddamn, get a hobby. Fuck off. But yeah, focus on you. Don't ever worry about not being with someone just because you're shamed for it, or it's your duty if your parents are pressuring you to do it or something. Go out there and find yourself. Find the hobby that speaks to you, the media that speaks to you, the experiences that speak to you. And then once you're happy with that, and then if you bump into someone in a relationship, then, you know, there you go. That's not to say you can't look for someone, you know. That's not to say you can't use Bumble or fucking I don't know what people. I was about to say Tinder, but people really only use Tinder for sex. That's not to say, you know, you can't actively try, but don't worry about it too. You don't have to try. You shouldn't worry about it too hard. You know, focus on making yourself happy. That's how I've gone in life anyway. Sorry about that random tangent, but yeah. Overall, probably not gonna have kids, but I could probably do it if I was able. So yeah, that's Ask Wavetro 2. Honestly, that was a banger episode. I'm looking at the timer, and it was an hour and a half again. God damn it. But, you know, fantastic questions everyone asked. And so if you want to leave your own questions, I'm now taking them from the YouTube comments, so feel free to leave them down below. But you're not guaranteed a reply. If you want to be guaranteed a reply, even if your question doesn't get picked for the video, be sure to go to news.wavetro.net or wavetro.net/news and go to the latest newsletter post and leave a comment there. Every question commented on the newsletter, the blog, whatever you want to call it, gets a reply. So yeah, and also be sure to sign up while you're there for email notifications and everything I do, because, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I am seriously thinking about trying to make an actual Wavetro comeback, but it takes time trying to figure out a way to do it without burning myself out. And I know that I shouldn't like try too hard to present myself with how I write things, but you know what, I still want to try a little bit. You know, I still want to make something, you know, look a little nice or be a little extra shinier, because that's what I like to do. You know, it's who I am. Anyways, I'll stop the ramble now, and yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, the channel's probably gonna be quiet for a bit, and the next video is probably going to be Ask Wavetro again. But either way, I'll see you sometime in January. Take care.